Bluetooth mode.
Understand, you have to learn that men tend to forget that women typically are emotionally wired or more emotionally wired. Yeah. And so what happens is when she comes to you and expresses a concern, if that concern does not line up in your head logically, men tend to dismiss it. Okay? And they don't consider how she's feeling. And I want men to understand, you have to learn that we have to accept men and women are different. We are just built differently, and in understanding our differences, we can create more harmony with each other. When that woman says to you, this is how I feel, it's not about your logic at that point, bro. It's about how she feels. Men tend to forget.
There was a moment in time where I felt like you were difficult to deal with. But I would ask myself, like, why does she always want this from me? Why does she want that? Why does she complain about this? Until I had a certain shift in my perspective. And I want everybody listening to understand this, that things and people are only difficult when you don't know how they work. The moment I decided to become a student of you, the moment that I had the desire to understand and respect who you were at your core, you stop being difficult. When you understand your partner, you will start to operate in a different way because you understand the triggers. You understand why they respond to certain things in a certain way, so you start to handle them with more care. And when you take the time to really get to learn your partner in that way, man, your partner goes from being difficult to being a blessing. There was a moment
communication with understanding. push.
In Her Head by Elizabeth Coman. Women who say sorry. The women who apologize to me for being sick are part of a medical legacy, passed down over hundreds of years and still visible today. Elizabeth Coman. Ellen had been living with metastatic breast cancer for 6 years. She was a mom of 4, worked at a nonprofit, and traveled the world with her husband. Her life was full of joy, full of purpose. Her doctor had helped her live that way, not just survive. But now Ellen was dying. Her body was shutting down. And this visit from Dr. Elizabeth Coman, her oncologist, wasn't about scans or treatment plans anymore. It was about being present, holding her hand, sitting with the questions that didn't have answers. When it came time to say goodbye, they hugged. And that's when Ellen said it. Softly, almost reflexively. "I'm so sorry for sweating on you." That sentence lodged in Elizabeth's heart, not because it was unusual, but because it wasn't. Women say things like that all the time. Sorry for sweating, sorry for being sick, sorry for needing help. Even in moments of crisis or death, they're worried about taking up too much space. That shame is baked into the history of medicine. For centuries, women were treated as less capable, less credible, or even dangerous. Midwives were accused of witchcraft. Women were kept out of medical schools, silenced in textbooks, and sidelined in research. And today, the echoes of all that still shape the way women are treated and how they treat themselves. It's time to stop saying sorry. Plastic surgery. The history of plastic surgery is primarily a story about male doctors operating on female patients. But perhaps more importantly, it's a story about men with the power to make women beautiful and the authority to decide what beautiful looked like. Elizabeth Coleman. Timmy Jean Lindsay just wanted her tattoos removed. 2 roses on her breasts, reminders of a bad relationship she didn't want to carry around anymore. Timmy was a 29-year-old factory worker, single mom of 6, just trying to start fresh. But when she walked into a Houston hospital in 1962 as a charity patient, the doctors had a different plan. They offered Timmy free tattoo removal if she agreed to something else: the world's first silicone breast implants. She didn't ask for them, she didn't want them. But when they threw in free ear surgery, something Timmy did care about, she said yes. And just like that, a woman became a test subject for a procedure that would go on to shape beauty culture for decades. This is where medicine and beauty started to blur. Plastic surgery began on battlefields, rebuilding soldiers' faces after war injuries. But once anesthesia made elective surgery safer, doctors turned their focus to women's faces and bodies. Suddenly, being unattractive was framed as a medical problem. Surgeons claimed they weren't just fixing noses or lifting faces. They were curing depression and restoring self-worth. And it worked. For some women, surgery did bring confidence, but the standard of what was worth fixing often came from the doctors themselves, mostly men. deciding what made a woman beautiful, desirable, or acceptable. The patient's own wants didn't always come first. Even breast reconstruction for cancer patients was once considered frivolous. Some doctors dismissed the emotional trauma of losing a breast as silly. Others assumed older women wouldn't care. It took the popularity of implants, originally created to please men, for reconstruction to be taken seriously. Cosmetic surgery today is way more advanced, but the roots are still tangled. So many decisions about women's bodies started in rooms where women barely had a voice. And even now, the pressure to look a certain way often sounds a lot like a prescription. The fragility myth. What lingers on is the myth that women and muscular development don't mix, which can manifest in everything from school athletics to medical research to the BMI chart hanging in your doctor's office. Elizabeth Coleman. When bicycles first hit the streets in the 19th century, women hopped on, and the backlash was instant. Critics claimed riding would wreck a woman's body. Doctors warned it could ruin her fertility and even send her into madness. They invented something called bicycle face, a supposedly permanent grimace caused by physical exertion and moral rebellion. It was about keeping women still, modest, and under control. The idea that women were physically fragile, unsuited for exertion, ran deep in medical thinking. Muscles were tied to masculinity, and medicine reflected that. For generations, anatomy books barely featured female musculature. Female bodies were treated as delicate machines made mostly for reproduction, and anything that put strain on that system, like sports, was seen as dangerous. Even in the 1960s, women were banned from marathons. People believed running long distances would damage their reproductive organs. It took someone like Catherine Switzer, who entered the Boston Marathon under her initials and was literally shoved mid-race by an official, to prove just how wrong that thinking was. And yet, even today, research on sports and exercise still centers on men. Female injuries are less studied. Girls still get nudged toward being toned instead of strong. But here's what we now do know. Weightlifting, resistance training, and high-intensity workouts aren't just safe for women. They're life-changing. Strength training improves bone density, which is especially important as women age and face a higher risk of osteoporosis. It regulates blood sugar, lowers blood pressure, eases anxiety, and boosts confidence. It can even improve sleep and reduce chronic pain. Muscles aren't masculine, they're human. The more we unlearn old myths, the more we see that women were never weak. They were just held back. Eating like a lady. Ever since Eve succumbed to temptation by plucking and eating the forbidden fruit, women's appetites have been seen as particularly and inherently dangerous. Elizabeth Coleman. In the 1800s, if a young woman looked pale, tired, or lost her appetite, doctors might have said she had chlorosis, a condition they also called green sickness. It mostly showed up in medical records for teenage girls, especially ones from wealthier families. Pale skin and weakness were often seen as signs of purity, gentleness, and even beauty. Some doctors believed the cause was emotional or even romantic frustration, rather than something physical. At the same time, food and eating habits became a big part of how women were judged. In the Victorian era, a woman who enjoyed food too much could be seen as improper. Doctors warned that craving meat might reflect a lack of self-control. So girls learned early on that being ladylike meant eating small portions and avoiding rich foods. Thinness became the standard of beauty, even if it made people sick. In fact, chlorosis often came from a lack of iron, and it could be treated with iron-rich foods or supplements. But because of social pressures, many girls didn't get the help they needed. As medicine advanced, these ideas didn't go away. They just changed shape. For a long time, doctors believed that women had weaker digestion than men. They blamed their reproductive systems or emotional stress for symptoms like bloating or stomach pain. If a woman had constipation or irritable bowel symptoms, she was often told to worry less or calm down. Some doctors even claimed that too much thinking or studying could make young women sick, and suggested they focus on rest and proper habits instead. But these weren't just harmless myths. they led to real suffering, and many women's symptoms were ignored for years. Today, we know that digestive issues affect women differently and deserve to be taken seriously. Listening matters, and so does asking better questions. Autoimmune diseases. The female body, so many of whose workings remain medically mysterious, even in an otherwise enlightened age, also remains a vessel into which we can place all manner of things: blame, ignorance, incuriosity, fear. Elizabeth Coman. In 1973, a young medical student named Leora sat across from a doctor who had just diagnosed her with lupus. He told her she must never become pregnant. It was too dangerous. Leora looked him in the eye and calmly said, "Prove it." That one challenge changed not only her life, but also the course of his career. Today, Leora has 6 children and 17 grandchildren, and the doctor went on to lead pioneering research that proved pregnancy with lupus can be safe, with the right care. Autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis are all examples of the immune system going off track, attacking the body's own tissues instead of protecting them. And women suffer from these disorders far more than men. In fact, they make up 80% of autoimmune patients. Despite this, research into why that is remains shockingly thin. Part of the problem is that the immune system has been poorly understood for centuries. Even into the 20th century, doctors didn't fully grasp how infections spread. When Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis discovered that doctors were spreading deadly infection by not washing their hands between autopsies and deliveries, he was dismissed. He'd found the root of postpartum sepsis decades before germ theory caught up. Today, even when women do get diagnosed, many still aren't believed. A patient might say she's in too much pain to lift her baby, only to be brushed off, until someone finally examines her hands and realizes something's been missed. Others, like a woman with Sjogren's syndrome who couldn't feed herself by the time she got real help, fall through the cracks entirely. The system fails women not because their illnesses are rare, but because they're often invisible, and because no one asks enough questions. But as Leora proved, demanding answers can rewrite the rules. Hysteria. Hysteria defined the place of women in the world, as patients and as people. The consensus was that simply having a uterus put any woman at a biological disadvantage. Elizabeth Coman. For a long time, if a woman felt sad, overwhelmed, in pain, or just didn't act the way people expected her to, doctors had one word for it: hysteria. That word comes from the Greek word for uterus, and it was used for almost anything: fainting, anxiety, stomach pain, seizures, or even just being moody. Some doctors even believed the uterus could actually wander around the body, causing problems wherever it went. To treat it, they'd try strange things like putting sweet smells near a woman's lower body and bad smells near her face to lure the uterus back into place. As strange as that sounds, the idea stuck around for centuries. In 19th century France, a famous hospital called Pitié-Salpêtrière became known for its work on nervous women. One young woman named Augustine became its star patient. Doctors hypnotized her, photographed her during seizures, and showed her off in front of crowds like a science show. She was only a teenager, but her symptoms were treated like a performance, and she wasn't really given a choice. Her real suffering was turned into a spectacle. Even now, many women with real neurological disorders, like functional neurological disorder, FND, MS, or autoimmune brain diseases, are still misdiagnosed or ignored for years. It's not that their symptoms are invisible, it's that their stories aren't believed. The nervous system is complex, and when it malfunctions, it affects everything: movement, mood, memory, speech. Women deserve better than doubt. They deserve attention, respect, and real answers. Wasn't forever. A man with high testosterone, it was understood, was virile, a warrior, a stud. A woman with too much estrogen, on the other hand, was just crazy. Elizabeth Coman. A nervous and agitated man walked into the office of gynecologist Dr. Robert Wilson. He was there about his wife, who had become, in his words, impossible to live with. She was irritable, moody, and nothing like she used to be. Other doctors had brushed him off, saying it was just menopause and she'd have to get through it. But this man wasn't planning to wait. He reached into his coat, pulled out a gun, and placed it on Wilson's desk. "If you don't cure her," he said, "I'll kill her." Wilson didn't call the police. Instead, he gave the woman estrogen injections. A few weeks later, he proudly reported that her disposition improved, and she was back to caring for her terminally ill husband, who, as Wilson casually mentioned, happened to be a crime boss. The goal wasn't really her healing, it was her compliance. This story wasn't treated as alarming. It was used by Wilson to promote hormone therapy. In his best-selling book, Feminine Forever, he claimed estrogen could help women stay youthful and pleasant well into old age. Menopause, Wilson argued, was unnatural and unnecessary. And women, he believed, were easier to live with when they were hormonally balanced. The idea that women are ruled or ruined by their hormones isn't new. For centuries, doctors blamed everything from bad moods to madness on estrogen. Men had hormones too, of course, but theirs were linked to strength and logic. Women's hormones were linked to drama and decline. In 2002, everything shifted. A major clinical trial showed that some types of hormone replacement therapy, HRT, raised the risk of heart attack, stroke, and breast cancer. Prescriptions plummeted, but the science didn't end there. Later research found that for younger women and those in early menopause, HRT can still be safe and incredibly effective. Hormones aren't the enemy. The real danger is a medical culture that still treats women's emotions as a diagnosis and their well-being as secondary. Wrapping up. For too long, women have been made to feel like guests in their own bodies, apologizing for being sick, shrinking to fit someone else's version of beauty, or being told they're too emotional, too soft, too strong, too much. These aren't just personal struggles. They're the result of a medical system shaped by outdated ideas about what a woman should be. The pressure to stay small, whether in appetite, appearance, strength, or emotion, runs deep. You've seen it in the stories of women who said sorry while dying, who agreed to surgeries they never asked for, who were discouraged from building muscle or even from running too far. At every turn, their bodies were treated like problems to solve or control. Even something as basic as hunger became suspect. A woman enjoying her food too much? That was a character flaw. Feeling bloated or tired? Blame your nerves, or worse, your education. If your body doesn't match the mold, it's wrong. And if you speak up, you're hysterical. Science has come a long way, but old thinking still lingers. Women's pain is still too often dismissed. Hormones are still weaponized to explain away discomfort or disagreement. And healthcare too often focuses on keeping women pleasant instead of well. But here's the truth. Your body isn't too much. You're not imagining it. You don't need to earn the right to care. You could start by asking better questions, pushing past the silence, and refusing to apologize for being human. You deserve to be heard, healed, and seen.
We hope you enjoyed this read. If it made you think or smile, consider leaving us a rating and sharing your thoughts. Your input helps us make the app even better. Excited for more? Test your knowledge with a quiz and dive into your next title. Up next, another summary we think you'd like.
In mind that the combination of consistently bad or egregiously inadequate behavior with frequent plays for your pity is as close to a warning mark on a conscienceless person's forehead as you will ever be given. Martha Stout. If you're hoping for a clear tell that gives a sociopath away, like a shifty glance, a cold stare, or some odd twitch, you'll be disappointed. There isn't one. The giveaway is something far stranger. They play for pity. When you feel sorry for someone, your guard drops. Most people want to help, to forgive, or to give another chance. A sociopath knows this and uses it like a master key. One man who had spent his life running investment scams put it bluntly when asked what he wanted most out of life. People's pity. More than admiration, more than money, even more than fear. Pity was what opened doors for him. Think about what that means. The crocodile tears and hard luck stories, right when you're starting to question them, aren't accidents. They are tactics. A sociopath cornered by the truth will often transform instantly into a weeping, fragile figure, one you feel cruel pressing any further. If tears don't work, they might flip to righteous anger, using outrage to intimidate you into backing down. Another thing to watch for is the mask of respectability. We put trust in roles like doctors, teachers, priests, or bosses. We hesitate to question someone with a title or a reputation. That hesitation is a gift to the conscienceless. They know how to hide inside roles that carry built-in respect. Even claims like being an animal lover or an artist can serve as camouflage, making their behavior seem quirky instead of dangerous. The very qualities that connect us, like compassion, loyalty, or respect for authority, are the ones that get used against us. Which is why this subtle cue matters so much. If you notice someone repeatedly fishing for your pity while showing patterns of dishonesty or harm, that's a red flag waving. Don't play their game. Resist the temptation to compete with a seductive sociopath, to outsmart him, psychoanalyze, or even banter with him. Martha Stout. Most people want to believe everyone carries a spark of goodness, but the first rule of protecting yourself is accepting a hard truth. Some people simply don't. A sociopath doesn't feel guilt or love. To them, life is a game of domination, and they play to win. Your best defense is to listen to yourself. If someone's behavior makes your stomach tighten, don't dismiss it just because they wear a title or play a respected role. A white coat or a corner office doesn't guarantee conscience. Your instincts are often more honest than appearances. Another safeguard is the rule of threes. One lie or broken promise could be a mistake. Two starts. Look troubling. 3, that's a pattern. Deceit is the foundation of the sociopath's game, and once you spot it, the safest move is to walk away. It may feel harsh, but leaving early saves you far more pain later. Flattery is another tool they use. Compliments that feel overblown, too perfectly aimed at your ego, are almost always bait. The moment you notice it, pause and look harder. When dealing with a sociopath, the hardest rule to swallow is also the simplest. Don't play. Don't argue. Don't try to outwit them, and don't set out to redeem them. Your mission is not to change them, but to protect your own life. That may mean stepping away completely and refusing contact, even when friends or family don't understand. And finally, watch your pity. Your compassion is precious. Spend it on those who are genuinely hurting, not on someone who hurts others and asks you to cover for them. A sociopath will beg for silence. Don't grant it. Protect yourself, and you protect everyone else too. The roots of sociopathy. A person's tendency to possess certain sociopathic characteristics is partially born in the blood, perhaps as much as 50% so. Martha Stout. Why do some people grow up without a conscience? Research points to a 3-part answer: genetics, childhood environment, and culture. Heritability studies suggest that up to 50% of the personality traits tied to sociopathy can be passed down. Brain research shows a consistent pattern. People without a conscience process emotional information abnormally in the cerebral cortex. Signals of fear, guilt, or empathy don't land the way they do for most people, leaving them free of the inner brakes that guide social life. Environment matters, but not as most people think. Robert Hare's prison studies showed that sociopaths typically ended up in court around age 14, whether their backgrounds were stable or chaotic. For others, family life made a big difference. Those from stable homes first appeared in court around 24, while those from troubled homes averaged 15. Abuse and neglect can accelerate ordinary crime, but sociopathic behavior seems to unfold on its own timetable. Attachment disorder has been another suspect. The Romanian orphan crisis showed what happens when infants grow up untouched. Many became cold, impulsive, and even violent. Adoptive families often dealt with children who could not bond. Yet they lacked a key sociopathic hallmark, charm. These children were flat, isolating, or openly hostile, while sociopaths are often charismatic and able to blend in. Culture may be the most overlooked factor. In Taiwan, studies show sociopathy rates as low as 0.03 to 0.14%, compared to about 4% in the West. In the US, one survey found antisocial personality disorder nearly doubled among young people in just 15 years. Researchers suggest cultures that prize individualism and domination let sociopathy thrive, while those stressing interconnection push even the remorseless to act as if they belong. In the end, whether someone without conscience becomes a petty bully at home or a figure with real power may depend less on their family and more on the society that teaches them what they can get away with. Why sociopaths fail. Contrary to what seems to be a rather popular belief, acting ruthlessly does not, in the end, bring you more than your fair share of the good things in life. Martha Stout. The lives of sociopaths often look powerful in the short term. They can charm, cheat, or bully their way to the top of a business, a marriage, or even a country. But sooner or later, their stories unravel. Sometimes revenge catches up with them, as it did with dictators like Mussolini or Pol Pot. But there are deeper reasons they fail, reasons baked into the psychology of living without conscience. The first is boredom. For most adults, life seems full of work and responsibilities, and a free afternoon feels like a gift. But sociopaths live in constant understimulation, without genuine emotional ties, without the arousal that comes from loving, losing, caring, or connecting. They're left with games of domination. And these games wear thin. Like an addict, they need bigger risks and sharper thrills. But the supply runs out. What's left is a gnawing emptiness. This hunger often spills into drugs and alcohol. Studies show that most sociopaths abuse substances, using chemicals to dull the boredom or heighten the thrill. The pattern leads to ruined health, broken relationships, and even higher risks of diseases like HIV. They seek escape, but only find more collapse. Their self-involvement also breeds hypochondria. Every ache becomes catastrophic. Hitler himself obsessed over cancer and swallowed toxic remedies that eventually sickened him. On a smaller scale, many sociopaths use imaginary ailments to dodge work or secure sympathy. In the end, even the gifted ones squander their talents. They prefer shortcuts, schemes, and charm, which never hold forever. Most end up obscure, addicted, or defeated. Failed lives hiding behind masks. Gift of conscience. For most of us, most of the time, conscience is so ordinary, so daily, and so spontaneous that we do not even notice it. Martha Stout. Conscience doesn't usually feel dramatic. Most of the time, it's woven into small, everyday moments, like sharing food, comforting a child, or holding back a cruel remark. You don't stop to think about it, but these small acts give your life meaning. They're what people mean when they say something is good for the soul. Over centuries, our understanding of conscience has shifted. Once it was seen as divine command, later as Freud's punishing superego, and now as the natural outcome of our emotional bonds. Yet, in a striking convergence, religion, psychology, and even neuroscience all land in the same place. A life with conscience is richer and healthier, while life without it leads to emptiness and ruin. Every tradition, from Christianity to Buddhism to Yoruba proverbs, teaches some version of the Golden Rule. Don't harm others in ways you wouldn't want to be harmed. Studies show that giving, volunteering, and compassion make us happier. Buddhists call this interbeing, the sense that we are all connected, and psychologists describe it as emotional attachment. Different words, same truth. Caring for others gives us strength. Contrast this with people who lack conscience. They chase domination and power, but end up bored, loveless, and restless. Their lives narrow into repetitive games of control and self-preservation. Some turn to drugs, others to constant schemes, but none find lasting peace. Even when they rise high, their inner lives remain hollow. Now, imagine your own life without conscience. Picture the face of someone you love most, and then imagine looking at that face and feeling nothing at all. When you return to your own feelings, to love and connection, you see the gift you carry every day. Conscience is ordinary, but it's also the thing that makes our lives fulfilling. Wrapping up. Some people can move through life without guilt or love, and they often leave confusion and pain behind them. They may look successful or even admirable, but what's missing is the very thing that makes life meaningful. Their game is domination. They lie easily, flatter heavily, and, when cornered, reach for pity as a weapon. The best way to protect yourself is to notice the pattern early and refuse to play. Walking away may feel difficult in the moment, but it saves you from far greater harm later. The truth is, you already have the most powerful protection, your conscience. It might not feel dramatic, but it shapes countless small choices every day. It keeps you honest, reminds you to care, and helps you connect with others. The impulse to make amends, offer help, or choose not to cause harm is what anchors you to love and trust. Sociopaths lack that anchor. Their lives often collapse into boredom, failed schemes, or endless games. Yours doesn't have to. By honoring your conscience and trusting your instincts, you not only shield yourself from harm, you also deepen the very ties that give life its joy and meaning.
We hope you enjoyed this read. If it made you think or smile, consider leaving us a rating and sharing your thoughts. Your input helps us make the app even better. Excited for more? Test your knowledge with a quiz and dive into your next title.
Bluetooth mode. AUX mode. Bluetooth mode.
Single, you make terrible choices. You stay with someone who treats you badly. You jump into relationships too fast. You settle for less than you deserve. Jay talks about his client Leo, who moved cities for a girlfriend who wasn't even sure about him, all because he couldn't stand the thought of being alone. Spoiler, she dumped him a month later, and he ended up lonelier than ever. Solitude is actually the cure for loneliness. When you spend quality time alone, you figure out what you actually like, not what your ex liked or what movies tell you to like. You discover your real values. You learn to give yourself the validation you keep chasing from others. Eventually, you become a whole person instead of someone desperately looking for their other half. Start small. Go to a movie alone. Eat dinner by yourself without scrolling your phone. Take that art class you've been thinking about. It'll feel weird at first, but gradually, you'll stop needing someone else to make you feel complete. And that's when you're actually ready for healthy love. Rule 2, don't ignore your karma. We pick the wrong people and repeat mistakes in relationships because of the samskaras we bring with us from the past. Jay Shetty. Why do we keep dating the same type of person just with a different face? That's karma in action, but not the cosmic revenge kind you're thinking of. Karma is really about the patterns, called samskaras. We picked up as kids that now run our love lives on autopilot. And until we spot these patterns, we're stuck in a relationship Groundhog Day. Your parents, Disney movies, and that first heartbreak all programmed your brain with ideas about love. Maybe your mom always put work first, so now you chase workaholics. Or you watch too many rom-coms and expect someone to chase you through an airport. Jay shares how he planned over-the-top proposal with horses and singing because Bollywood movies messed with his head. It was also not needed. His wife ended up having an allergic reaction to the horse. Most of the time, we don't even know these patterns are there. We think we're making fresh choices, but really we're following an old script. For instance, do you know those types of exes? The rebel who's exciting but unreliable, the chase who's never quite available, or the project who needs fixing. Yeah, we've all been there. Want to break free? Write down what went wrong in your past relationships. Look for patterns. Were you always in the same energy, lonely, trying to impress someone with money, desperate for validation? Once you see the pattern, you can finally choose something different. Because you attract what you put out there. Time to change the signal. Rule 3. Define love. We say, I love you, or wait for the right time to say it, or hope someone will say it to us, but there is no universal agreement as to what it means. Jay Shetty. I love you. Those 3 words can mean anything from, I want to marry you, to, thanks for the good time last night. No wonder we're all confused. Saying, I love you without knowing what we actually mean is like ordering food in a language you don't speak. You might get a delicious meal, or you might get something you really didn't want. Love is a feeling that moves through 4 distinct phases. First comes attraction, that butterflies in your stomach chemical high. Then dreams, when you start planning your future together. Then struggle and growth. This is when it gets real. And finally trust, the deepest connection. Most of us think love should stay in phase 1 forever. When the butterflies die, we panic and think something's wrong. But the struggle phase isn't a bug, it's a feature. When you fight about whose family to visit for the holidays or how to load the dishwasher, you're not falling out of love. You're actually building something deeper. The couples who last aren't the ones who never fight. They're the ones who see fights as chances to know each other better. The 3-date rule will help you find a partner with whom you'll enjoy all these phases. On date 1, check if you actually enjoy their personality. On date 2, see if you respect their values. And on date 3, find out if you want to help them reach their goals. This beats swiping based on abs or assuming chemistry equals compatibility. Real love grows through all 4 phases, over and over. Once you know this, you stop freaking out when things get hard. Rule 4. Your partner is your guru. Your partner knows everything about you, the good and the bad. Jay Shetty. In true relationships, you're both teachers and students for each other at the same time. Jay's wife didn't care when he had a big career breakthrough. At first, he was hurt. Why wasn't she impressed? Then he realized she was teaching him something without even trying. She loved him when he had nothing, so his success didn't change anything for her. That taught him to value himself for who he is, not what he achieves. Your partner does this for you all the time. They show you blind spots just by being themselves. But being a good guru means leading by example, not criticism. If you want your partner to eat healthier, you don't nag them. You start cooking healthy meals and let them see how good you feel. You support their goals, even if they're not what you'd choose, instead of pushing your agenda on them. Help them become the best version of who they want to be, not who you think they should be. On the flip side, you need to be a good student too. That means actually listening when they point something out, staying humble instead of getting defensive, and appreciating the lessons they bring, even the uncomfortable ones. Your partner sees you like nobody else does. They're with you at your worst and your best. Don't think of it as a burden. That's the classroom for both of you to grow. Rule 5. Purpose comes first. I put myself first because I want to give the best version of myself to you and our family. Jay Shetty. When Jay's client saw his wife list herself as her #1 priority, he was hurt. But he didn't have to be. It turns out, putting your purpose first isn't selfish. It's the most loving thing you can do. When you're living your purpose, you're energized, fulfilled, and excited about life. That's the person your partner fell in love with, not the resentful zombie who gave up their dreams. Another of Jay's clients, Amy, was miserable because her musician boyfriend was always touring. But when he cut a tour short to spend time with her, she felt guilty, and he felt resentful. The problem was that she lacked her own pursuits. Once she started teaching painting and planning an art show, everything changed. She stopped sitting around waiting for him because she was energized by her own purpose. There are actually 3 relationships in your partnership. There's you two together, sure, but there's also your relationship with your purpose and their relationship with theirs. Ignore any of these, and the whole thing falls apart. When one person has no purpose, they get jealous of their partner's success or become needy for attention. Nobody wants to be someone's entire world. That's too much pressure. Here is how you should treat your purpose. Learn about what excites you. Experiment with it. Thrive when you find your groove. Push through the inevitable struggles. And celebrate the wins, which are only like 0.1% of it anyway. Whether you take turns supporting each other's purposes or go all in together, you both need to pursue something meaningful. That's how you stay interesting to each other and bring fresh energy to your relationship. Rule 6. Win or lose together. Why would I want to crush my wife? Why do I want to defeat the person I've chosen to spend my life with? Jay Shetty. When you're fighting with your partner, who exactly are you trying to beat? The person you love? That makes no sense, but that's what we do. We turn our partners into opponents instead of teammates. The real enemy, though, is the actual problem between you. There are 3 types of fights we all have. There's the pointless fight, you're just mad and lashing out. The power fight, you need to be right. And the productive fight, you actually want to solve something together. Most of us live in the first 2. We don't care about fixing anything. We fight because our ego is bruised. Imagine the problem as a wave coming at both of you. You can turn on each other and both drown, or you can grab hands and swim through it together. When you fight the problem instead of each other, you both win. When you fight each other, you both lose, even if you win the argument. Use peace method to make it real. Pick a time and place to talk, not when you're fist. Express feelings without attacking. When you do this, I feel not you always. Manage your anger. Commit to actual changes, not empty promises. And evolve by apologizing. Don't use words like always and never. Say using we instead of you and me. Schedule your fights instead of exploding. Sit side by side instead of face to face. These will remind you that you're a team facing life together. Rule 7. You don't break in a breakup. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. The Bhagavad Gita. When a relationship ends, you feel shattered, but you aren't what's breaking. Your expectations are breaking. Your shared dreams are breaking. That future you imagined together is breaking. But you're still whole. You existed before this relationship, and you'll exist after it. According to science, breakups literally feel like drug withdrawal. Your brain floods with chemicals that make you desperately want your ex back. There are studies where people thought about their exes 85% of the time they were awake. That's not love anymore. That's your brain freaking out like an addict needing a fix. No wonder we do irrational things like showing up at their work or sending those 2 a.m. texts we regret. The person who hurt you can't heal you. Stop waiting for closure from them. They don't have the answers you want, and honestly, they probably don't even understand why things ended. Write down everything that went wrong, all the fights, disappointments, the times they let you down. You need these reminders for when your brain tries to trick you with just the good memories. Before jumping into dating again, learn from what happened. What patterns did you repeat? What did you ignore? What did you learn about yourself? Every ex teaches you something if you're paying attention. Once you've done this work and rediscovered who you are alone, then you're ready. Because the next person deserves the real you, not someone still carrying baggage from the last relationship. Rule 8. Love again and again. The more people you help, the more you expand your capacity for love. Jay Shetty. If you had $100, would you give it all to one person or $1 to 100 people? Both help, but spreading love to many makes you capable of more love. Nobody has to choose between strangers and their partner. Romantic love simply serves as practice for something way bigger. You don't need to receive love to feel it. Anyone can experience love anytime they want by giving it. That smile to the grocery clerk? That's love. Helping your annoying coworker? That's love too. Starting a neighborhood book exchange? Love again. Science backs this up. When we help others, we get a helper's high that lasts for weeks. Your brain literally rewards you for being loving. Get practical. Start with your inner circle. Show understanding, belief, acceptance, and appreciation to friends and family. Then expand outward. Love your difficult relatives from a distance if needed, keeping a radius of respect. Appreciate your colleagues by actually noticing their efforts. Smile at strangers. Research shows being ignored by strangers actually hurts people, while a simple smile releases feel-good chemicals in both of you. You could spend your whole life searching for the one and feel empty, or you could give love all day long and feel amazing. Once you get this, you stop being the flower waiting to be watered and become the gardener, planting seeds, giving fruit, creating shade for others. The love you're looking for is already inside you, just waiting to be shared. Wrapping up. Finding someone to love won't complete you. You're already complete. Learn to be okay by yourself. Spend time alone and figure out what you actually like, not what others told you to like. Once you know yourself, you'll see why you keep dating the same type of person over and over. Those bad relationships are showing you what needs to change. Real love goes through 4 stages: butterflies, planning your future together, fighting, and deep trust. Most people quit when things get hard, but that's when real love grows. Your partner shows you things about yourself you can't see alone. When you fight, remember, you're on the same team trying to solve a problem together. Want a strong relationship? Focus on your own goals and dreams first. When you're doing something meaningful with your life, you bring good energy to your relationship. And if things end, you'll be okay. You were whole before them, and you'll be whole after. Here's the biggest secret. You can feel love anytime by giving it. Help your neighbor, smile at the cashier, and support your friends. The more love you give, the more you have. You don't need to wait for someone special to feel loved. You already have everything you need inside you. Start sharing it today.
We hope you enjoyed this read. If it made you think or smile,
English eh. Hindi naman. Mabilis lang naman yung mga ginawa ko.
Ako baka malagtag. Mamaya natin kayo.
Kumain ako nito. Sige lang. Ha? Akala ko na ibigay niya na to. Sabi ko na dyan ka. Kanina ka pa ba nakano? Kanina ka ba nakapark dito? Shit sila? Hindi na kailangan mag-heavy. Oh, may shit ka pa. May shit pa doon. Hindi natin na lang yan.
Nag-meeting sila?
Pasyente. Sila, may pasyente sila. Eh, hindi naman ako nag-assist eh. Nagkita lang ako dun. Hindi na rin ako nakipagpalitan kay Leia. Kasi para hindi na ako masisirado ng ibang ano. Pero ano siya? Hindi siya kumain ng cake. Birthday cake kasi ni Muji. Yan lang nagkanta. Oo, eh wala siya eh.
Kailan ba birthday niya talaga?
30 yata ba?
Ha?
30 or 31? Malamig na sa labas. Ha? My God, ayoko ng jacket-jacket. Kasi, ayoko. Saan ang jacket-jacket? Yun na nga, tapos tatanggal ka pa ng ano.
Maganda lang.
mamamatay.
Pag jacket ka. Pwede mo ulit-ulitin yung sinasuot.
Oo. Oo. Hindi yan kita.
Oo, tsaka hindi siya nagdudumi. Hindi naman siya.
Pero bakit tayo mainit dito ngayon?
Ayaw ko matumat.
Gano'n
Hindi ka naman nanilagnat.
Hindi naman nililang pala yun. Magaling na kita. Mabangga tayo. Kalandian. 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 Ano na ako? Effective man ang kapusid ko.
Alin?
Kapusid.
Alin?
Yung gamot. Yung ano?
Yung pangatalasan?
Oo. As in, na-release yung parang ano ko dito. Tagal-tagal lang mga iniinom na ko. Di ba, uminom na ako ng mga gamot bago ko ininom. Kapusid lang din yung ano. Medyo kumain yung pakiramdam ko.
Pero pangatalasan?
Ano yung kalawang? Ano po?
That is Mustang.
Anong oras ka nakatulog? Di ka natulog na. Dapat ano?
Oo, nilaban ko yung ano lang. Naiwan ko pa.
Ha?
Naiwan ko pa.
Ha?
Ano na, dryer ba?
Natulog ka ba?
Yan? Oo ah.
Ka nainitan? Kaya nga, wag mo talaga subukan yan kay ay naku. Parang brush.
Naglaba ako ng sapatos.
Ha? Amazing no, hindi na siya tumubo ha. Amazing.
Yung ano lang puti.
Oo, pero yun yung ano.
Itim. Wala na.
Amazing talaga, dalawang session lang yun.
Ay, yun. Hindi na ako magaganon.
Maganon ka pa rin?
Ayan. Pag tumumuli, service ko sa umaga.
Nag-train ka din kanina? Ha?
Oo.
Eh.
Ano ako dyan? Magaan ang buhay. May sinabawang pumuli.
Ano?
Mas magaan ang hindi nakakaupo din naman ako.
Opo ka lang eh, tas diretso lang ito. Ka na masyadong ilipat, no? Aba?
Oo, so 5 stations lang ito eh. Wala dito. 5 lang. 5 or 6.
Oo, hindi ka nalilipat dito.
Naghihintay lang ako dito. Yan ang pinakamalapit kong station papunta sa trabaho. Na pwede akong sumakay. Pwede din naman ako sumakay sa may yung red pag ano.
Or yung dito na yung stop niya.
Dito sa Apan, Apan Road na yan eh. Yung kasunod. Mas malapit niya, kaya lang malayo na yun sa bahay. Ay, hindi. Malapit din pala. Kasi kaganon lang ako. Dito kasi parang pabalik. Try ko yun.
Sa second station nila doon. Katapos itong gabi, doon man yan.
Apan tapos Sabik na eh. After Sabik, there's Nora 1, tapos 2, Terminal 5.
Pero depende ka kung saan mo ipapark yung sasakyan mo.
Yun nga eh. Dito kasi medyo okay sa may inyo, sa may
Kasi may mga kainan kasi yung andyan eh.
Oo,
Hindi
pwede.
mahalata na maiiwan mo ng matagal.
Hours.
O, tsaka yung mga nandyan mga usual ba na alam mo may mga employees ng sasakyan, gano'n?
Feeling ko yung mga nagpa-park na
Maaga?
nag-try din.
Maaga?
Oo, kasi nakikita ko pagbalik ko yun din eh, nandun pa rin sila eh. Ibig sabihin, umaga sila ako.
Ayaw mag-drive, no?
Oo, mas convenient kasi tipid na ba sa kasi kung mag-drive ka pupunta, lang pupunta ng airport. Parang parehas lang din, para din ako nag-gas lang papunta sila.
Oo. Pupunta ka din naman sa akin minsan, di ba? One road lang ako. Baka dito ako punta niya. Oo, punta.
Oo, nag-station.
Ito nga ngayon yung leggings.
Ano yun? Palamig? Ano yung mga pal?
Leggings.
Mga pal.
Para sa'yo, hindi bagay sa'yo magkaluga. Parang kang slick. Tapos yung t-shirt mo na ano.
Pwede yung looks ko.
Actually, okay naman na sa'yo. Okay naman din sa'yo yung mga formang.
Pero pantay.
Meron kasi yan kayo minsan pag sa pananamit mo yung klaseng pantalon na
Bagay.
sa'yo, ganyan. Pero bakit naman na rin sa'yo yung skinny jeans?
How you handle it. Sa kasi sa ano rin ba sa mood mo rin. Pag feeling mo confident ka, okay. Pero pag hindi ka, parang wala ka sa mood, parang hindi ka confident sa damit mo. May ganun, di ba?
Oo, kahit ako Saan kahit simple like damit mo, kapag confident ka naman, nadadala naman siya yun. Kahit isa ube-ube lang yung damit mo.
Kahit mumurahin na, parang mukhang mamahal. Meron pala dito parang 5 real. Para sa kamusta. Makita ko dito. Yan yata. Ano ba tayo? Ayan yan.
Ikaw ba't ipag-Texas chicken lang tayo?
What? Texas?
Ano pa kayo ng Texas?
Hindi ko alam. Pwede.
Huwag ka na.
Yeah, hindi pa rin ako kapunta din.
Ha?
Hindi pa rin ako kapunta. Pero masarap din chicken. May rice kaya?
Wait lang. Kasi sa tawag nito. Ay, gusto ko talaga rice.
Eh, kasi may hipon.
Oo nga. Try pa ba? Pilis lang po muna dyan.
Hindi, diretso na tayo.
Ha? Magta-Texas chicken na tayo?
Oh, ikot lang naman tayo pag hindi maganda yun.
Alam ko may rice sila, rice meal o chicken rice meal. Alam ko may rice meal sila kasi sa
Lilipat yata kami ng opisina.
Oo, ng bahay.
Pero doon pa rin sa area.
Bakit ka lilipat?
Eh kasi yung airport gagawin na siya papalakihin pa siya.
Huh?
Ano mo yun? So yung mga ilang industrial facility yun nandoon. Tatanggalin yun.
Ayun o, chicken tex rice. Para siyang ano.
Mag-drive thru tayo.
Sige. Para siyang KFC. You know,
Oo nga, no?
15 lang.
O, dalawa. O, malaki.
Dalawa?
Isa lang? Isa na lang.
Isa na lang. Hindi lang. Isang,
Anong pangalan?
ano yun? Chicken
Chicken
tex
tex
rice.
rice.
Merong tex rice, merong ganito. Yung chicken naman na buo.
Yun na lang.
Chicken tex rice or itong chicken rice deal. With chicken fish with
Ito na lang. Chicken
ikaw.
rice.
Pareho lang naman yata ga. Ayun pa rin ang sauce oh. Ano?
Ito na lang.
Malaking chicken na lang.
Oh, ito na lang. Chicken rice deal.
Chicken rice deal.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Can we have the chicken rice deal?
Chicken rice deal.
Yes, one
Okay.
order. Is it a meal or no?
This one without drinks.
Okay, no drinks. That's all.
Okay.
Yun lang, mashed potato.
You have mashed
Wag na,
potato?
wag na.
Yes.
Wag na, wag na.
Okay, kalat.
Cancel.
Only the chicken rice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yun lang, pwede na yun. Dalawa lang tayo. Di ba?
Pwede na yan. Oh.
Ano, may habang naman tayo dun.
Alam ko na kung style para hindi siya di ba pumapalya to? Ibibend ko ng konting.
Chicken with rice.
Yes.
Ilan?
19?
Di ba? Ang laki ng patong nila dito ba?
Bakit?
20,
23? Okay, sa po. Yun.
every week ba?
Oo, kung marami ka orderin.
Oo. Dito din pala sila umaano, no? Umabawi.
Oo
Sa
naman.
ganito.
Sa presyo.
Kaya pala. Dito pala sila bumabawi. Meron silang wrap ka, oh. Let's wrap. Chicken wrap.
Parang ano rin.
Crunchy wrap.
Parehas lang sila. Pero
KFC.
nagkaiba lang sila ng timpla. Tikman natin ang timpla nito. Parang masarap to eh. Sa SM Manila lagi ako napunta ng Texas Chicken.
Doon sa ano, sa mall, ano may pinaka natin? Masarap doon yung Texas, yung may Jollibee.
Pagayat ka rin eh.
So, ito sabihin, yung 15 nun, baka 12 lang. No?
Baka nga 11.
Ay, ano lang naman yun eh, para siyang i-fry, hati-hati na na chicken rice.
Strips. Yes. Yo. Para may sauce siya.
Eh, talit ng kanin. Kaya ba to?
Parang tayo.
Parang kukulangin tayo nito eh. Sure ba?
Kaya.
Parang kukulangin.
Ito tayo heavy.
Ako mag-heavy.
Ikaw? Sige.
Parang kulang to ga. Promise.
Yan.
Promise.
Tapos isang KFC. KFC. Yung isang Arabiata.
Eh, hindi na ga.
Ano?
Meron din silang rice meal lang.
Oo nga. Ayun.
Hindi, may rice lang talaga.
Rice lang?
Oo.
Bili tayo sa KFC?
Ha?
Saan ba? Dito?
Hindi, meron sila dito rice lang talaga. Wala lang ulam. Okay na yan. Tawa na to.
Umuwi tayo na kanin doon. Yung nga pong kanin.
Ate, kaya anong kain? Nagutom kami. Sige, kain kayo dyan. Kain kayo. Meron pa kami tira. Eh, wala na eh. Nakain ko na yung sinain ko kanina. Aga.
Ilan yung chicken? Dalawa?
Dalawa.
Marami pa. Tsaka may potato yun, guys. May mais pa nga yata yun.
Kainin natin yun, guys. Basta mag-rice ako, ha? Dito pala.
May dessert pa tayo.